Ever get that feeling like social rejection is just like physically hurts?
Yeah.
That's your social brain doing its thing.
Mhm.
And we're going to take a deep dive into the science of why we as humans just crave connection.
Okay.
And we'll be using that audiobook you sent over, Social, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Connect.
Sounds good.
So get ready because we're going to find out how our brains deal with social stuff,
Mm.
why fairness is so important,
Okay.
and how all of this can help us in our own social lives.
All right. Well, it's amazing how much our social brains are just like tied in with our whole brain.
Right.
Like it affects how we see things, how we make decisions,
Uh-huh.
even if we don't realize it.
So let's dig into this whole idea that social pain is just as real as physical pain.
Okay.
That cyberball experiment from the book, that really caught my attention.
Yeah, that one really shows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So imagine you're playing this virtual ball toss game, right?
Uh-huh.
And you get left out.
Okay.
Sounds pretty basic. But studies have shown that this actually activates the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex,
Wow.
which is the same area that processes physical pain.
So like,
So our brains, they don't really differentiate
really?
between a stubbed toe and like being left out of a game.
So it's not just a saying that when people say like hurt feelings,
Well, dream.
it's real.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, it makes sense when you think about how strongly we react to social situations, especially as kids.
Absolutely. And it just shows how deeply rooted this need to connect is.
Yeah.
You know, if you compare brain size across species, primates, especially humans, we had a larger neocortex,
Interesting.
which is linked to having larger social groups.
So maybe our big brains come from our complicated social lives.
That's the idea.
Fascinating.
Mm.
The book also talks about oxytocin, the love hormone,
Oh,
and
yeah.
its role and all this.
Yeah.
I've been so interested by that.
Think about that feeling you get when you hug someone you love
Yeah.
or when you really trust someone. That's oxytocin.
Essentially.
It helps build those bonds, you know?
Mm.
Creates those warm, fuzzy feelings.
Uh-huh.
And studies actually show that a dose of oxytocin can make people more trusting and altruistic.
It's like a magic potion for being nice.
Kind of.
But the book also mentions like a downside to oxytocin, right?
Right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
So oxytocin promotes bonding within a group,
Okay.
but it can also make people more aggressive towards people they see as outsiders.
Wow.
Shows how complicated our social wiring is.
So it's not just about good vibes. It also plays a role in like defining our groups.
Mhm.
Maybe even those us versus them things we see sometimes.
Exactly.
Another thing about our social brains, our need for fairness.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about being nice. It's more than that.
It's deeper.
Like we're wired to want things to be equal.
Yeah.
And we'll even sometimes go against our own interests to make sure that happens.
The book has that example of people rejecting an unfair split of money,
Right.
even if it meant getting nothing at all.
Like they're thinking, that's just not right.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And brain imaging studies actually show
Okay.
that fairness lights up the reward centers of our brain,
Oh, wow.
whereas unfairness activates the areas involved in self-control.
So it's like our brains are constantly checking if things are fair,
All the time, yeah.
and it triggers like really strong emotions.
Definitely.
This makes me think about how we set up our legal systems
Yeah.
or economic policies.
Right.
If we ignore this need for fairness, it could be a big problem.
Absolutely.
Speaking of systems,
Yeah.
let's look at the workplace.
Okay.
Social talks about this SCARF model for understanding social motivators at work.
A framework.
So SCARF stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and AXA.
Mm.
There's that fairness again.
Yep.
The book says instead of just offering money as a reward,
Right.
we should be designing work environments that meet these core social needs.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Tasks that help other people. That taps into our need for relatedness,
Okay.
giving employees control over their decisions.
Yeah.
That satisfies that craving for control.
Makes you wonder if we've been doing work motivation all wrong this whole time.
It's possible.
What if, like, using these social drives is the key to better productivity and job satisfaction?
That's a great point.
And the book says that traditional education often misses the power of social interaction for learning.
It does.
We usually think of learning as a solitary thing,
Right.
but our social brains are wired for interaction and collaboration.
Exactly.
Imagine the benefits of something like peer tutoring.
Yeah.
Both the tutor and the person being tutored,
Mm.
they both benefit from the learning and the social connection.
Plus, creating that sense of belonging at school,
Right.
it can reduce bullying and improve how well students do.
Feels like we've been underestimating the power of the social brain this whole time.
It really does.
Makes me think, what happens when our need for connection is ignored?
That's an important question.
Uh,
And it's one we should definitely talk more about.
it is. It is. Okay, so we've said our brains are wired for this connection, but the book also looks at the other side of that. What happens when we don't get those connections we need?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got to be more than just feeling a bit lonely, right?
Oh, yeah, it's way more than just a fleeting feeling.
Okay.
Research actually shows that chronic loneliness, it can have serious effects
Yeah.
on both our mental and physical health.
Wow.
We're talking real, measurable changes in our brains and bodies.
So what's going on in the brain when someone's isolated for a long time?
Well, one big thing is that it can disrupt the balance of important brain chemicals.
Okay.
Like it can lower dopamine levels.
Dopamine, the pleasure and reward chemical.
Exactly. So it's like the brain's reward system is just kind of running on empty.
No wonder people feel apathetic and unmotivated then.
Right. And it's not just dopamine.
Really?
It also messes with our stress response system.
Oh, how so?
It increases cortisol, the stress
That's
hormone.
not us all yet.
And over time, this can lead to all sorts of problems.
Like what?
Heart disease, weaker immune system, even problems with thinking and memory.
It's like being chronically lonely puts your body in a constant state of fight or flight.
Right.
Right.
That's a good way to put it.
Makes sense why it can feel so exhausting.
Exactly. And this constant stress can also mess with your sleep,
Oh, I see.
which then makes the negative effects of loneliness even worse.
A vicious cycle.
Totally.
This makes me think about how social interaction helps us regulate our emotions. You know, when you have a good chat with a friend and you're feeling down, it can really lift your spirits.
Right, because social connection acts as a buffer against stress
Okay.
and helps us manage our emotions better.
So without that buffer,
It's harder to deal with negative feelings.
this is heavy stuff. Makes you realize how important social connection really is for, well, just being okay.
It is.
Should we be worried about feeling alone every now and then?
I think it's important to differentiate between being chronically lonely and just having those moments of solitude sometimes.
Okay.
Occasional solitude can actually be good.
Oh, so.
It helps us with introspection and self-reflection.
So it's not just about the quantity of our connections.
All right.
It's the quality that matters.
Exactly.
This makes me think about social capital, which the book mentions.
Yes, social capital.
That network of relationships and support we
It's
have.
a huge resource.
Yeah.
Gives us a sense of belonging, practical help, even access to information and opportunities.
And when that social capital is gone, it's like losing a safety net.
Exactly.
And it feels like that's happening more and more in our modern world.
You're right, with things like more people living in cities, technology taking over everything,
Yeah.
our culture's focus on individual achievement, it's easier to become isolated even when surrounded by people.
So strange we have technology to connect with anyone in the world,
Yeah.
but we're facing this epidemic of loneliness.
It shows we need to be more intentional about building real connections.
Yeah.
It's not just how many people we interact with. It's the depth and meaning of those interactions.
So what can we do about this? How can we use what we know about the social brain to build a more connected world?
That's the million-dollar question, and that's what we'll be looking at in our final segment.
Okay.
We'll talk about practical ways to build stronger relationships
Okay.
and create a better sense of belonging in our communities.
That's what we need. So we've talked about this amazing social brain and what can happen when we're isolated.
Right.
Now let's get practical. How do we use this knowledge to build better connections in our own lives?
This is where we take what we've learned and actually do something with it.
Yeah.
And the good news is
What's that?
there's a lot we can do, both on our own and together.
I'm all ears. What's the first step?
Well, let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Prioritize face-to-face interaction.
In person?
Yeah, put the phones away, you know?
Uh-huh.
Have those real conversations with the people around you.
It's funny. Something that simple almost feels revolutionary now.
Oh, right.
We're so used to connecting through screens.
We are, but our brains develop for in-person connection.
Yeah.
With all those nuances like body language and tone of voice, digital communication is great, but it can't fully replace being there with someone.
So besides just being more present,
Yeah.
are there things we can do to make our existing relationships stronger?
For sure. Active listening is a powerful tool.
Active listening.
Really focus on what the other person is saying
Okay.
without judging or interrupting.
It sounds simple enough.
It does, but sometimes I catch myself zoning out in conversations.
Me too.
It takes effort to be truly present.
It does, but it must be worth it.
It is. When someone feels like they're truly heard,
Yeah.
that strengthens the bond between you.
It makes me think about how important vulnerability is in relationships. Letting people see the real us, even the not-so-perfect parts.
Yeah, sharing our experiences, good and bad, builds trust.
Uh-huh.
We connect on a deeper level than just small talk.
So we've talked about one-on-one connections.
Right.
But what about feeling like you belong in your community?
That's where things get interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
Find activities you enjoy and that match your values.
Okay.
Like volunteering, joining a book club, or playing a sport.
It's about finding common ground with people.
Exactly.
Right. And feeling like you're part of something bigger.
And you don't have to just find existing groups.
Oh, you mean
You can create your own opportunities to connect.
Oh, okay.
Host a dinner party, start a walking group, organize a neighborhood cleanup.
So many possibilities.
It's about taking charge and building the kind of community you want.
I like that. It's empowering.
It is. And remember,
Yeah.
fostering connection isn't just about fixing loneliness.
Right.
It's about one of the most basic things that makes us human.
That need for connection. It's about experiencing the joy, the creativity, the strength we get from feeling connected.
Well said.
So to wrap up our deep dive,
Yeah.
I'll leave you with this thought. We have this amazing ability to connect deeply.
We do.
How will you use that? How will you nurture your social brain and help create a more connected world?
That's something to think about as you learn more about this topic. Remember, every interaction, every connection can spread outward and create a more compassionate, vibrant, and fulfilling experience for everyone.
I think that's a great note to end on.
I do too.